It's my distinct pleasure to introduce to you the 41st Governor of the State of Illinois, His Excellency Governor Pat Quinn.
Thank you. We welcome all to Springfield. This is a busy time of year, and I was thinking back about a year ago, we came together, and I want to salute all the employers of Illinois who work so hard every day to balance your books and to move our economy forward. I think the most important thing we can do in Illinois is to focus on our economic growth to help everyday people have decent jobs and support a middle-class standard of living. So I want to thank you for doing that. I've been governor for 5 years, and I have been here a few times. And 5 years ago, as you know, our state was in a difficult situation, to say the least. We had an ethical crisis, we had a fiscal crisis, we had an economic crisis, really, in our whole country. And we have banded together in the best traditions of Illinois democracy and worked together to negotiate our way and navigate our way through these difficult challenges. And I think our state has definitely turned the corner. We've made a comeback. I wanted to talk today about some of the things we've done and some of the things we will do. And I look forward to working with everybody here. I understand that you don't always agree with me, but we have agreed on a number of things along the way. And I did want to recite a few of those because I'm grateful to the retail merchants and the Manufacturers Association for your help along the way at some very important missions that all of us had to participate in and work on if to make Illinois a better state. Right after I was sworn in, as you know, our state had not had an investment program in construction and public works in 10 years. And within 10 weeks, we were able to pass Illinois Jobs Now, our investment of over $31 billion in the infrastructure of our state. Our roads, our bridges, our rail systems, our water systems, our schools, our broadband deployment, all of that we've invested in the past 5 years, and we've really received dividends from that great investment. I look forward to doing another plan of capital investment and working with everybody in this room. But we created lots of jobs, and we laid a foundation for economic growth that will be very strong for Illinois today and tomorrow. We also worked on unemployment insurance reform. It was a collaborative effort, very important in state government across the way there in the Capitol, that we have people working together in both parties, in both houses. We also worked together on workmen's compensation reform, which was a very difficult challenge, an important issue. I want to thank the retail merchants and the Illinois Manufacturers Association. They endorsed our proposal. We passed it through the Senate, and we passed it through the House, and I signed it into law. I think that was a very major step forward. We're always interested in continuing on that journey, but we made important steps of reform with respect to workmen's comp, and don't let anybody tell you differently. Your organization, your members really helped us when it really counted, and we're grateful to you. We also streamlined our environmental regulations, which were very, very important for our state to make sure that we do have in Illinois protection of our environment. At the same time, we don't want excessive delay with respect to making decisions. We passed in Illinois several years ago a landmark education reform demanding more accountability from our schools, from our teachers, putting performance above tenure, making sure that there were report cards for parents who have their children in our schools to make sure that these children are receiving an excellent education. It's important anytime we talk about education to have these accountability reforms that we enacted, and it's a model for the whole United States. Together, we worked on nursing home reform, a very, very important reform in our state. We have many fragile and vulnerable citizens in Illinois in our nursing homes. We want to have proper regulation, proper inspection. Our State Department of Public Health is charged with this responsibility. We passed an important law requiring inspection of nursing homes to make sure they're safe and sound for everyone. If anyone was going to treat our seniors wrong, we want to make sure we get to the bottom of it and get to it quickly. Now, as you know, we have, in the course of the last 5 years, worked together on budget issues. We had to overhaul our Medicaid program. We received notice that it was We're going to have $17 billion deficit if we didn't act quickly. We worked together to restructure our Medicaid program. We reduced the budget. We were able to get proper restructuring of the programs, and our Medicaid program is a lot better today than it was a few years ago. As a matter of fact, the most recent numbers, we've added 510,000 people in the past year to the health care coverage ranks in our state, and that's an important mission to have a healthy group of citizens. We've been able to cut our state budget by $5.7 billion in the past 5 years. It's very important to understand that we've cut our budget. The budget today, the operating budget of Illinois, is at the same level as it was in 2008. Now that's, I think, an important achievement. We had to economize. We had to close facilities. There are some that take the political course of trying to keep certain facilities that needed to be closed. They want to keep them open, and it's never an easy job, I can guarantee you that. But we had to close 50 facilities in Illinois, and sometimes people yell at you. I've had standing ovations from folks who didn't agree with my decisions, but it's important to understand that in order to have a balance in our budget, sometimes costs have to be cut, facilities have to be closed. I've been able to make those decisions and stand by them, and I think it's very, very important that we do that. As you know, we have a bill backlog that accumulated in Illinois during the recession when there was a lack of revenue. We've been able to reduce our bill payments pay our bills by $5 billion. We've reduced it by $5 billion. Our goal in Illinois is to make sure we get on a 30-day payment schedule, and we're very close to that. If we can pass our budget this year, a very important budget, we'll be able to get very much close to a 30-day cycle with respect to paying our bills. I think that's an important responsibility. We also understand that we have many employees in state government, but we have fewer today than we did 5 years ago. Matter of fact, our ratio of government employees to the population of our state, almost 13 million people, is one of the lowest in the country. But we believe in the collective bargaining, in respect. We don't demonize public employees. I don't think that is the right way to go in life. And we negotiate with our employees. We negotiated a collective bargaining agreement that saved taxpayers $900 million in health care costs. It's the best achievement, I think, of any collective bargaining agreement we've ever had in our state. And that's part of the reason our state is in better economic condition today than it was 5 years ago. But I think, clearly, the most important reform we've been able to make, thanks to folks in this room, your organization stood by us in a very tough time. We had to work and work month after month in order to get a pension reform bill passed into law in our state. Many people talked about the need, and a lot of folks identified what needed to be done. But we had to put the votes together in the House and Senate and get those two to agree in a bipartisan way with both Democrats and Republicans, House members and Senate members, voting for public pension reform. Our state had a $100 billion liability, a cloud over our economy, and we had to address it. There are some who wanted to argue it away and say it's not necessary. There were some, frankly, as we came down to the vote in December, who wanted to sabotage our effort. You're going to hear from one of those people in an hour or so after your lunch. I stood by your organizations to make sure we got that bill passed in the House, passed in the Senate, and I signed it into law. A bipartisan measure, a landmark measure that the Illinois Manufacturers Association and the retail merchants supported. And I want to thank you for doing that. We had many more groups who understood this was an act of political courage. And there were some for political reasons that wanted to undo our good work. And I'm glad that legislators in the majority disregarded what you're going to hear from some, that we should not have fundamental pension reform. I thought it was necessary. That's why I signed it into law. And Moody's, a credit rating agency that rarely gives much praise at all, said it may have been the biggest pension reform ever done in our country. And we did it here in Illinois. We understood our responsibility to our economy and to those who work in our economy and to our businesses. So I'm very happy we were able to get that done. And I also want to thank both associations for your commitment to our economy. We've worked together on things like STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and math. We were able to get a very large grant from the federal government for our digital manufacturing center. We have a manufacturing lab in Illinois that our state has invested in, both the manufacturing lab and the digital manufacturing. It's really going to be led by the University of Illinois. These are very, very important achievements. Our economy, we've been able to grow 257,000 jobs since the recession ended. We have our unemployment at the lowest level in the last 5 years. We still have much more work to do. But we're recently found by Site Selection Magazine to be the third best place in America to locate a business, to locate corporate expansion, and we want to continue that. And one of the best ways to do that is to make sure we invest in our education. And that's why I want to talk today about the budget issue that's before the legislature. Got to pass a budget by the end of this month. And I know you're going over to talk to your legislators with great respect and courtesy. It's very important we do that. We have to have civility in Illinois politics. I'm in a campaign. I've been in a lot of campaigns. But I always believe in civility. I think it's important that you don't engage in trash talking and name calling and things like that. The issues are too important. And that's why the budget issue is so important in our state. We have made many, many fiscal reforms in the last 5 years. We have made our state stronger economically and fiscally. We do not want to go backwards to where we were before. That's why I presented a budget a few weeks ago that called for maintaining our income tax in order to make investments in our education, to prevent our education from being savaged by savage cuts. I think it's super important that all of our businesses, many of them represented here today, understand how important it is to invest in education if we're going to have a strong economy. I believe in early childhood education, from birth to 5. We have a Birth to 5 initiative that will have the most robust investment in state history. We have 1 million children in Illinois who are born today to the age of 5. We have to invest in their early childhood education. It is the very best investment government can ever make. Same way with our K-12. We've enacted our accountability standards, but we have to make sure that we don't see savage cuts in our education budget. It's very important to understand that if the state government doesn't live up to its primary responsibility to invest in education in Illinois, those school districts all across Illinois are going to raise your property taxes. That is something that everyone should understand in dealing with this budget. If you don't have proper investment in education from the state of Illinois, local school districts will have no choice but to lay off teachers, increase class size, and raise local property taxes. Now, in our state, we have a very large reliance on property taxes, far more than the national average. We're 20% above the national average. Illinois collects more money every year in property taxes than it does in the income tax and sales tax combined. We cannot let this continue. This is a drag on your businesses. It's a drag on our economy in Illinois. We want to reduce reliance on property taxes. We don't want to use a 19th century complicated, unfair property tax system to fund the most important part of the 21st century. That's educating our students, whether they be young in K-12 or whether they be a little bit older in our community colleges and our four-year universities. We cannot afford to turn the clock back and reduce state investment in education. That's why before the election, in a very concrete and specific budget that I laid out, with all kinds of details, I laid out what our state needs to do in order to maintain our investment in education. The alternative, perish the thought, will be savage cuts in school districts all across the state, 12, 13% cuts in our school districts of elementary and secondary education, in our community colleges, four-year universities, same way. We cannot afford the University of Illinois or any of our other public universities to have savage budget cuts. That's a prescription for going back when it comes to growing jobs. We need to invest in education. And I was just with some students here who were visiting in Springfield. We have a program that's been around in Illinois for over half a century. It's called the Monetary Assistance Program. Complicated name, it's a scholarship program. It provides scholarships to students who have financial need but who have been admitted to either community college or four-year university, public or private. DePaul, for example, has got many, many students with MAP scholarships. It's the largest private university in the Midwest. University of Illinois, all of our state universities, many students are able to go to these universities because of our scholarship program. We invest about $370 million in this program. 140,000 students get scholarships. The tragedy is that there are 153,000 students admitted to college with financial need that don't get the scholarships because we run out of money. Now, I've proposed in our budget that over the next 5 years, we double our investment in MAP scholarships. This is the best investment in human minds that we can possibly come up with, because those men and women who get those scholarships, more than half of them are of color. Many, many of them are first in their family to go to college. And the statistics show that they graduate from college the same as those who don't get scholarships, but they stay in Illinois. They want to be in Illinois. They want to work for you in Illinois. They want to grow in Illinois. So I believe in investing in those everyday people who are the heart and soul of our state. College affordability is super important. Whether we're investing in early childhood education or whether we're investing in scholarships or anything in between, it's important we understand from the governor in a specific, concrete way that we must have the money to make these investments. For those who tell you, you can tax less, spend less, that means learn less. And they're not telling you the truth, because we cannot afford in our state over the next year or two to have a $4 billion reduction in our investment, not only in education, but our public health. Do we want our seniors without the proper oversight of nursing homes? We've got to make sure we have proper investments. And using the income tax based on ability to pay is the best way to go. Relying on property taxes or regressive levies or savage cuts is not the right way to go. It will not help our economy. So I'm going to fight as hard as I can to pass our budget. I hope you agree. We cannot have the highest property taxes in the nation. That will not help our economy. I served as the commissioner of the Cook County Board of Property Tax Appeals 30 years ago. I heard firsthand from businesses and individuals with homes and other properties with respect to the property tax system. We are at a turning point in Illinois economic and fiscal history. If we go in the right direction, we will use our income tax system to reduce reliance on property taxes. We have in our proposal a job training tax credit for our businesses to make sure when you're training your workers, you get a tax credit. We want to encourage that. We also have an earned income tax credit to help families raising children. We want to make our system fair. And I think this is a fundamental issue that affects every business, every individual in this state. Now, yesterday, I had the honor, I live in the governor's mansion. It's a special privilege, but a visitor came to the governor's mansion, and that's Jim Edgar, former Governor Jim Edgar, and a good friend. And we talked about a lot of things, but we talked about what he tried in 1997. And it was, I think, it's probably his greatest regret that that year, Illinois did pass more income tax revenue for education, passed it in the House with property tax relief and reform as part of the package. It went over to the Senate. Governor Edgar told me he had the votes on the floor of the Senate to get that passed. But the President of the Senate didn't let the bill be called. And Illinois in 1997, 17 years ago, lost that opportunity to really do something for the next generation, to do a fundamental, bold reform that improves our economy and improves our education and makes us a more decent society. Now, Governor Edgar told me that what I'm doing with respect to our budget is the right thing to do. Matter of fact, the credit rating agencies, which I know a lot of your businesses deal with, they're not exactly given the high praise of anything. But all three credit agencies that look at our state economy and our state budget have said positive words about my budget proposal. They know that Illinois cannot go back to a situation with billions of bills unpaid. Our budget will roll down the amount of money that we owe, and you get to a 30-day cycle. Those credit rating agencies know that we have to have a revenue structure that balances with the expenditures. And they understand that balance is very, very important. And they're looking for specifics. Now, in a little while, you're going to hear from someone whose plan for our budget, and it can be summed up in 3 words. Mum's the word. I don't think that's a good thing for our state. I know Governor Edgar, when he was governor, and he's a different party than I, spelled out specifically what he would do with respect to investing in education, using the income tax to help reduce reliance on property taxes. This is a bipartisan measure in our state. This is something that all businesses should embrace. Do not fall for platitudes that are easy to say. Sounds good if you say it fast, but they don't get to the bottom of what we have to do in Illinois, which is to have in this campaign candidates who lay out with specific, concrete detail what they will do to make our state better. I believe in Illinois, like everyone else in this room. We can work together to continue the comeback that we've made over the last 5 years. We've got lots more work to do, but it all begins with having a fair budget that invests in our students and our children. We are custodians of the children of Illinois, and together we've got to make sure they've got a great future. Thank you very much.